Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about rational roots, evaluating and factoring polynomials. Here's the large problem that we'll work on, and to make sure we don't take ourselves too seriously, let's think about the fun question. Can you name 10 Disney characters in 1 minute? So on the math section, Algebra 2 will have something related to polynomials. This is finding roots or factors of them and also evaluating them. You could see graphs potentially, you could have graph related questions. But this one problem knocks out a few different standards related to polynomials, which is nice. So let's just dive in. Okay, so it says the following function represents the profit for a bread company for X loaves sold in thousands. The profit, P of X dollars, will be earned in 10,000s. Find the possible rational roots of the function, then use an actual root to fully factor the polynomial. All right, so let's start with A here. This polynomial happens to be a quadratic. Okay, so if you're trying to fully factor it, you could use a strategy like split the middle or like guess and check to factor it. But let's look at how the roots will help us get to that point. So the first thing it says is find the possible rational roots. Okay, how do we do that? So let's call this -4 p, and let's call this 2q. And the rational root theorem says that all of the possible rational roots would be factors of positive or negative p over factors of, gosh, writing straight lines sometimes it's hard. Okay, factors of positive or negative q. Okay, so if I want to write out all of those, I would do positive or negative 1 because, p, this is the same thing as 4, plus or minus 4. This is the same thing as 2. So my options are 1, 2, and 4 as far as factors of the positive or negative p. And then factors of 2 would be 1 and 2. Factors meaning the building blocks to get to those numbers in terms of multiplication. So like the factors of 5 are 1 and 5, right? So now what? All of the possible rational roots will be every combination of all the p's and q's on top of each other here. So all the p's go on top, q's go on bottom. So we have 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 4 over 1. Okay, so that would give us 1, 2, 4, all positive or negative, as well as 1 over 2, 2 over 2, 4 over 2. So that just adds on a 1/2, and then 2 over 2 is 1, and 4 over 2 is 2. So I already have those in my list. Okay, so I like drawing those little groupings like this because it helps me get all of them. So here is our set of possible rational roots. We did this bit. Then use an actual root. Okay, so how do we know which of those numbers, 1, -1, 2, -2, 4, -4, 1/2, and -1/2, how do we know which ones are the actual roots, meaning the actual zeros of the polynomial? Well, what we have to do is go to our calculator. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is plug in our function. Okay, let's call it y1 or y2, whichever. That would be 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. That's our function, right? So let's get that all plugged in. And next we need to set one of the settings so that we can properly use this table, okay? So just for the record, in order to get to this y equals, we just push up top the y equals button, okay? We plug our function in, and then to get this table set up, we're going to go second, it's the second button, and then window. And something called table setup comes up. What I want you to do, this is a really great trick, is instead of auto and auto, can we turn on ask for the independent, meaning the x and y? When we look at our table, we're going to want to ask the calculator which x's we want rather than having to go through the whole list of all the ones that they give us. So turn on auto, or turn it on from auto to ask by going to ask with the arrows and then clicking enter. Then from there, you want to be able to clear. So it'd be second mode. That's the same thing as clear or quit. And then once you clear that out, then we will be able to go to our table here. Okay. So this table I'll pull down a little bit. To actually go see our table, then it's second graph. Second, then graph. Okay, so what's amazing now is in this X column, I can plug in all of these numbers. I can go 1, enter, -1, enter, 2, enter, -2, enter, 4, enter, -4, enter, 0.5, enter, -0.5, enter. And what I am looking for in my list is some point that has a 0 as the y, because that would tell me where my zeros are on the graph. So in this case, I'm going to start plugging all those in, right? 1 and -1 don't work. See, this is just an example of, that's a different one. I'm just showing you an example of like what you're looking for here. Okay, 1 and -1 do not work. They don't give me a 0 for the y. 2, no. -2, no. 4, no. -4, no. Oh, -4, yes. Okay, so actual root, I'm finding -4, and let me do the 0.5 and -0.5. And hey, 1/2 works. So that must mean that to fully factor this polynomial, hey, if my roots or my zeros are those two numbers, doesn't that mean that I get x equals -4 and x equals 1/2 if I, solve for the zeros? So what I want to do now is write this in factored form. If I was going to factor this p of x, then this part must be x plus 4, remember, because you switch the sign. And the 1/2 is a little tricky. It's just, if I were basically taking that x equals 1/2 and then trying to get it 0 on one side, I go times 2 on both sides. We get 2x equals 1. And then I'd subtract 1 on both sides. So that would give me 2x minus 1 is the other. So we used an actual root. You could just take that one root, -4, for example, and then factor the rest by using your factoring techniques. Now, you could have factored this in the beginning from the start, but this is using the roots, the possible rational roots to help us. So A is done. We found possible rational roots, we found the actual roots, and we fully factored. Okay, so that was a 3-part problem. Lastly, it says how much money will be earned in profit for selling 3,340 loaves of bread. Okay, so it says up here that for X loaves sold in thousands, so 3,340 is 3.34 times 1,000. So the 3.34 is what I'm going to plug in. This is working on evaluating polynomials. And so I'll go P of 3.34 equals, and I'm plugging it into my original. 2 times 3.34 to the second plus 7 times 3.34 minus 4. That equals, you should get 41.6912. So that is, remember, in 10,000s. So my total amount that I'm making here with the loaves of bread is that number times 10,000, which is 416,912. And there you have it. We've done everything. So we figured out how much the profit would be for selling the 1,000 or the 3,000-ish loaves. Feel free to replay this video for these calculator tricks, but this is a really helpful technique to be able to find the actual zeros. So in terms of practice, try this one. Right off the bat, you could use factor by grouping to factor this, but try to use the actual roots to fully factor the polynomial. Why don't you pause the video and I'll show you the answers. Okay, answers are here. When you figure out the possible roots with the P and the Q, you figure out actual roots from there using the calculator trick. Then all of these roots translate into these factors, and then you just plug in 3.34 into all the x's to figure out the profit. So I hope this video helped you in some way. I really like this quote. I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious. Feel free to put the fun questions answer in the comments, and you can subscribe if you'd like to keep up with the videos. Have a good day.